I'd like to welcome everybody on this first formal seminar of the seismic course. And we're going to be doing a couple of things to get you used to Matlab and to start on network biology. So let me just bring up my first slide. The session will look like this. We have, after this quick overview, I'm briefly going to go about the Matlab environment, just to get a bit of a feel where things are. And we start with networks matrices, and that will be our computational mathematical part. And then we go into a biograph exercise, a specific Matlab tool called biograph, where we hope to connect much more to the biological thinking behind network science. I just bring up my Matlab screen and to get a bit of an overview, there's a couple of tools at the top here that I think you will best explore yourself, because for my taste, it's too many things that are there. But the important thing that we have here, where my cursor is now, if you can see that, that's the command window. So the command window is there to just type in commands that you want to have executed. And a useful one is pwd. If you press enter after typing pwd, you can see where in the space of your computer you are, so the current directory. It's extremely important to know, because if any file that has Matlab code in it is in that directory, you'll be immediately able to execute it from Matlab without specifying the path to it. Okay, then what other windows do we have? We have a workspace here on the right-hand side, where now you can see ans, that's short for answer. So the answer that we just got to our query was the path to the directory, to the current directory. This is currently stored in the workspace. Later, if we do other things, this will be consecutively replaced by other things. And then what we can do now, we can use another thing, which is CLC. And CLC is a command that gives you a fresh command window. That's always a nice thing to have, especially if you type a lot of code. This is how you get a free space to do new thinking and new coding. So let's define a new variable to have just some exercise. And my variable, this is the name that I assign to it. And I just use something that maybe you don't know yet. It's random numbers. So RANDA is a function that creates random numbers. And as an argument to that function, so the input of what is this function going to work with, I give it the number, say, 10. Which means if I execute the code, and that you have to learn, this is something, the function given a number creates a matrix. So an array of numbers, an ordered structure of numbers. And in this case, 10 means create a 10 by 10 matrix. So I have altogether, my variable now contains 100 numbers. So 10 times 10 numbers. So it's not very important to see those numbers. I just do CLC to have that away. You can see it's in my workspace. Just click on it. And even though it's small, you might see it's highlighted in blue now. And the reason I do this is because I want to demonstrate that in that toolbar up here, you have something which is called plots. So if you haven't explored it yet, do it. So create a variable like I did, highlight it blue in the workspace. And then once you do that, you have access to almost an infinity of plot function functionalities by just clicking on them, so without knowing the code. I just demo one here, area. So if you create area, it will create a figure where the data are displayed as 10 lines, and the area above the lines, consecutive areas below the lines, are colored or color filled, right? So another thing is that same variable is still highlighted in blue. If I click on, I don't know, surface or something, surface will create now a 3D plot. And 3D plot means you can also use the mouse to drag and change the perspective on it. So if you want to have that flat, maybe that's what it looks like flat, that's a 2D projection of it. And if you bring it up in 3D space, it looks like this again. So I'm just saying that this functionality for your variable, say contains your data, could be your data, then this plot tab here gives you access to a huge numbers of things, and almost anything that you can imagine will be available to you just at a mouse click. So pie charts and contours and so on. Everything is just there. And I encourage you to explore that further in the way that I've just showed. And if you're curious then what the code is behind that function, of course, you can also see that. It actually shows in your command line. So the last figure that I did was a surface plot, and the Matlab function to do this is called surf, S-U-R-F. So and if your data are called my variable, then surf of my variable will give you the plot that we saw. So let me get those things away because we're not very interested in it at the moment. And there's a functionality. If you click on that little sign here, if you don't want to see the workspace all the time, you can just go to minimize and get rid of it. Let's get our CLC back so we have a fresh window again. So that was just to give you a little bit of a feel of this environment here. So we have a very powerful environment. It allows all the coding that you just can imagine. And for the rest, of course, you are going to be doing this, all the tasks, coding them up in Matlab, doing plots, generating tables and output, and storing the results.